SP Secretary General exposes opposition youth corruption, shocking political allegations. Are Zambia's young opposition politicians the future of democracy, or part of the problem? The Socialist Party Secretary General has ignited controversy by declaring that there are corrupt young people within the opposition. Is this a rare moment of political honesty, or an attempt to shift blame and redefine accountability? Tonight, we unpack the statement, the context behind it, and why it has triggered intense debate across Zambia's political space. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. Well, it's been quite a week in the political landscape, hasn't it? The temperatures are rising, and I'm not just talking about the weather. Today, we're diving into something that has sent shockwaves through the corridors of power, our lead story tonight. A political bombshell that threatens to unravel the very fabric of youth political movements across the nation. Picture this, behind closed doors, in air-conditioned offices where the future of a nation's youth is supposedly being shaped, a different kind of transaction is taking place. Money exchanging hands. Promises whispered in corridors. Young faces, bright with ambition, unknowingly caught in a web of deception spun by those they trusted most. But what happens when the mask slips? What happens when someone from within the establishment decides that silence is no longer an option? What happens when a Secretary General, someone who has seen the inner workings of the machine, steps forward and says, "Enough is enough"? How deep does this corruption run? Who else knew? Who else benefited while young people, the supposed beneficiaries of these programs, were left with empty promises and depleted coffers? And here's the question that should keep us all awake tonight. If this is what's happening in youth wings of political parties, organizations meant to groom the next generation of leaders, what does this say about the future of our democracy itself? Factual foundation, background and timeline. The revelation came to light this week when the Secretary General of the ruling party's youth wing held an unprecedented press conference, breaking ranks with political protocol and exposing what he described as systematic financial exploitation within the opposition's youth structures. According to the Secretary General, whose party has been engaged in ongoing political rivalry with the opposition, the allegations center around the misappropriation of funds designated for youth empowerment programs. These programs, funded by a combination of party contributions and international donor grants, were meant to provide skills training, entrepreneurship support, and educational opportunities for young people aged 18 to 35. The timeline of events is as follows. 6 months ago, in June of this year, the Secretary General claims he first became aware of irregularities through confidential sources who had worked within the opposition youth structures. These sources, he alleges, approached him with documentation showing discrepancies between reported expenditures and actual program delivery. By August, the Secretary General states that he had compiled a dossier of evidence, including bank statements, forged receipts, and testimonies from young people who had been promised opportunities that never materialized. In September, attempts were allegedly made to bring these concerns to neutral oversight bodies, but the Secretary General claims these efforts were stonewalled, with some suggesting political motivations behind his allegations. This week, frustrated by what he describes as institutional inertia, the Secretary General decided to go public, releasing a 47-page report detailing alleged financial misconduct totaling millions in misappropriated funds. The accusations specifically name several high-ranking officials within the opposition youth wing, claiming they created phantom projects, inflated costs, and pocketed the difference, all while publicly championing youth empowerment. Direct evidence. During the explosive press conference, the Secretary General didn't mince words. Here's what he had to say. "Look, I didn't want to be standing here today. Believe me. This isn't about politics. This isn't about scoring points. This is about young people who trusted a system, who believed in the promises made to them, and who were, quite frankly, robbed." He continued, his voice rising with emotion. "We have bank statements. We have receipts. We have testimony from young people who were told they would receive training, who were told they would get startup capital, who were promised mentorship. Do you know what they got? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And do you know where that money went? Into the pockets of officials who drive luxury cars and live in mansions while preaching about youth empowerment. When asked by journalists whether he had concrete proof, the Secretary General responded, "Concrete proof? Let me give you an example. There's a youth entrepreneurship program that was supposed to benefit 500 young people in the northern region. The budget? $2.5 million. The report submitted to donors shows full implementation. But when we tracked down these so-called beneficiaries, we found that only 87 people received anything, and what they received was worth maybe $200,000 total. So where did the other $2.3 million go?" A journalist then asked about the political timing of these revelations, given upcoming elections. "I knew someone would ask that," the Secretary General replied with a bitter laugh. "Of course, they'll say this is political. That's the playbook, right? When you can't defend the accusations, attack the accuser. But let me ask you this, if your house is on fire, do you wait for a convenient time to call the fire department? This is corruption. It's happening now. It's been happening. And if we don't speak up because we're worried about political optics, then we're complicit." He then read from what he claimed was a WhatsApp conversation between two opposition youth officials. The donors are asking for receipts for the leadership training workshop. That's the first message. The response? Just get Mercy to print some. Use the same template from last time. That's fraud. That's premeditated, calculated fraud. When pressed on whether he had approached the opposition leadership directly before going public, the Secretary General became visibly frustrated. "Approach them? We approached them. Multiple times. Do you know what we got? Denials. Deflections. We were told we were, quote, politically motivated. We were told the evidence was manufactured. One official even had the audacity to tell me that we were just jealous of their successful youth programs." Successful? The only thing that's been successful is their ability to lie with a straight face. One particularly damning piece of testimony came from a young woman named Grace, a supposed beneficiary of an opposition youth program, whose statement was read during the conference. "I attended what they called an orientation meeting. There were maybe 30 of us. We were told we'd be getting sewing machines in 3 months of training. That was 2 years ago. I never got a sewing machine. I never got training. When I followed up, they stopped answering my calls. Then I saw on their website that the project was successfully completed with photos of sewing machines and people I'd never seen before. It's like we didn't even matter." Deeper analysis. The implications of these allegations extend far beyond one political party or one youth wing. If proven true, they represent a systemic betrayal of the very demographic that political parties claim to champion most vocally. Dr. Amara Okonkwo, a political analyst at the Institute for Democratic Governance, offered this perspective. What we're seeing here is potentially the commodification of youth aspiration. Young people, particularly in developing democracies, are often the most enthusiastic political participants. They volunteer, they campaign, they believe in change. If those who are meant to represent them are instead exploiting their hope for personal gain, it creates a profound cynicism that can take generations to undo. The opposition party has, predictably, rejected the allegations entirely. Their spokesperson issued a statement calling the press conference a desperate political stunt by a ruling party that knows it's losing ground among young voters. They've promised a comprehensive rebuttal with their own documentation showing proper use of funds. However, some within the opposition have broken ranks. One anonymous youth member told reporters, "I've had my suspicions for a while. Things just didn't add up. Programs that were supposed to happen never did, or they were scaled-down versions of what was promised. But if you asked questions, you were labeled a troublemaker or accused of working for the opposition, which, ironically, we were already part of." Legal experts suggest that if the evidence is as substantial as claimed, this could lead to criminal investigations. Financial crimes, fraud, and misappropriation of donor funds are serious offenses that carry significant penalties. But there are also questions about the Secretary General's own motivations and methods. How did he obtain some of this information? Were any privacy laws violated in the process? And perhaps most critically, why now? The timing, so close to election season, inevitably raises questions about political opportunism, even if the underlying facts are accurate. Civil society organizations focused on youth empowerment have called for an independent, nonpartisan investigation. They argue that regardless of political affiliation, any misuse of funds meant for young people must be thoroughly examined and those responsible held accountable. The donor community has also taken notice. Several international organizations that fund youth programs in the region have issued statements expressing concern and promising to review their oversight mechanisms. One European development agency announced it would suspend new grants pending the outcome of investigations. A move that could affect youth programs across all political parties. Perhaps the most troubling aspect is what this reveals about institutional accountability. If these allegations are true, how did they go undetected for so long? Where were the audits? Where were the checks and balances? And if they were detected but ignored, what does that say about the priority placed on fighting corruption versus maintaining political appearances? Young people themselves are watching this unfold with a mixture of vindication and despair. Social media is flooded with hashtags both supporting and condemning the Secretary General. Some young activists see this as validation of concerns they've raised for years. Others view it as yet another example of older politicians using youth issues as ammunition in their own battles while young people remain caught in the crossfire. Thank you so much for watching today's edition of InspirAfrica Official. This is a developing story, and we'll be following it closely in the coming days and weeks. The truth has a way of emerging, even when powerful forces try to keep it buried. Whether these allegations lead to accountability or become just another chapter in political theater remains to be seen. But here's what we know for certain: young people deserve better. They deserve leaders who see them as citizens to empower, not resources to exploit. They deserve transparency. They deserve accountability. And they deserve a political system that lives up to the promises it makes. So, what do you think? Are these allegations credible? Is this political opportunism or genuine whistleblowing? How can we create systems that protect young people from this kind of exploitation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation about this because your voice matters. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories that matter, more investigations that dig deep, and more conversations that challenge the status quo. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop questioning. This is Nakash, signing off from InspirAfrica Official.